Did ancient humans really trade with strangers from other tribes? It's a fair question. We tend to picture our prehistoric ancestors as small, isolated bands huddled around a fire, rarely venturing beyond familiar territory. But the archaeological record tells a very different story. Long before writing, before agriculture, even before permanent settlements, humans were exchanging goods across staggering distances. Seashells have been found hundreds of kilometers from any coastline. Volcanic glass used for toolmaking has been traced back to a single mountain source, yet turns up in camps scattered across entire regions. These aren't accidents. They are evidence of networks, chains of contact, exchange, and cooperation between groups who may never have even met each other directly. So how did trade actually begin? Most researchers think it grew out of something simpler than commerce, social bonding. When two neighboring groups crossed paths, sharing a gift, a tool, a bit of food was a way to signal peaceful intent. It said, essentially, we are not a threat and we might be useful to know. Over generations, these small gestures could evolve into regular, expected exchanges. A band with abundant flint might trade with a band living near a rich berry patch or a reliable water source. This wasn't trade in the modern sense of haggling over price. It was closer to reciprocity, an unspoken agreement that giving now meant receiving later, when your own group faced hardship. Material evidence makes the case powerfully. Archaeologists studying sites in Europe and Africa have found marine shells, some pierced to be worn as beads, far inland, transported through a series of handoffs between groups. Similarly, obsidian, a glassy volcanic rock prized for its razor-sharp edges, has been chemically fingerprinted back to specific volcanic outcrops. Toolmakers hundreds of kilometers away were using it, meaning the material passed through many hands before reaching its final resting place. This kind of long-distance movement of goods implies something important. Even mobile hunter-gatherer groups maintained social ties that stretched well beyond their immediate territory. Why would groups bother maintaining these distant relationships at all? The answer comes down to risk management. Life for early humans was unpredictable. A drought could wipe out plant foods, a herd migration could fail to arrive, an accident could injure key hunters. Groups that had allies elsewhere had a safety net. If your local resources failed, you might travel to a trading partner's territory, exchange goods, share information about where game or water could be found, or even be taken in temporarily. Trade wasn't just about the objects changing hands, it was about building trust that could be called upon during hard times. In this sense, exchange networks functioned almost like an ancient insurance policy. What did people actually trade? The list is more varied than you might expect. Tool-making stone, like flint and obsidian, was hugely valuable since good sources were rare and unevenly distributed. Ochre, a mineral pigment used in art and possibly in tanning hides, moved across long distances too. Shells and beads, likely used as personal ornaments, may have carried symbolic or even status-related meaning. There's also evidence suggesting exchange of more perishable goods, food, medicinal plants, and animal hides, though these rarely survive in the archaeological record the way stone and shell do. Even knowledge itself, like the location of a good hunting ground, could be considered a form of currency. These exchanges likely happened at predictable gathering points. Anthropological studies of modern hunter-gatherer societies, like some groups in Australia and southern Africa, show that different bands often meet at agreed times and places, near a reliable water source, for instance, to socialize, arrange marriages, and trade goods. It's reasonable to think prehistoric humans did something similar. Such gatherings would also double as opportunities to negotiate disputes, share stories, and pass on skills between groups, reinforcing bonds that mere isolated encounters never could. The consequences of these networks were enormous. Trade meant new ideas could spread rapidly between distant populations. A clever tool design, a new hunting technique, or a better way to start a fire could travel from group to group long before any single person migrated that far. It also meant genetic exchange between populations, reducing the risks of inbreeding in small, isolated bands. In short, these networks help tie humanity together as one interconnected species, rather than a patchwork of disconnected tribes. Yes, ancient humans absolutely traded with other tribes, and did so far more extensively than we once assumed. Long before markets, currency, or written contracts, our ancestors understood something fundamental. Cooperation between groups, even distant strangers, could mean the difference between thriving and simply surviving. That instinct, to build relationships beyond our immediate circle, didn't just help early humans get through hard winters. It laid the very foundation for the interconnected world we live in today.